All right, good morning, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order of the DuPage County Development Committee of January 19th. I'm calling this meeting to order. A physical member, a quorum rather of the members being not present pursuant to Section 7A of the Open Meetings Act, members are permitted to attend remotely. Either one member of the committee, the chief administrative officer, or our chief legal counsel are physically present. Therefore, in-person attendance and public comments are allowed, subject to attendance limitations. Pursuant to the Illinois Attorney General's guidance, the public bodies and open meetings, county board members may participate without being physically present. Remind everyone there will be a roll call vote on each and every vote, even procedural matters such as combining agenda items and approving consent agenda items, which will also require roll call votes. That being said, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Member Krajewski?
Here.
Member Covert?
Here.
Member Garcia?
Here.
Member Ozog?
Here.
Member Rutledge?
Here.
Chair Tornatori?
Here. And we have a quorum, and I see we also have member Dessart. Welcome, Don. Under chairman's remarks, just a couple of things. I know that we have a number of people here and who have submitted online public comment to public comment as much as anything else. For those who are unaware, public comment is limited to 30 minutes by our rules and limited to 3 minutes per person. Public comment will begin at the beginning of the meeting. Because we have people who are here both for and against the only agenda item, I have taken it upon myself to divide the public comment into two 15-minute segments. 15 minutes for those who are for the agenda item and 15 minutes for those who are opposed. Everyone will have 3 minutes per person, meaning there will be 5 people who will be commenting publicly. There are people who are here in person. We're going to be taking the in-person public comments, and anybody who has submitted a email or electronic public comment, those names will be added to the minutes, and anybody who is here today and not given an opportunity to public comment, your name will be entered either for or against to the minutes. For purposes of the members of the committee, there is one item on the agenda. When we get to that item, it is my opinion and the opinion of the state's attorney that we will presumably have 4 options to deal with. We will be dealing with an up or down vote on the petition as set forth. We will be voting up or down on the petitions with any conditions that any member may make to the petition through an amendment, a condition through an amendment agreed to by the petitioner. We could have a motion to refer this back to the Zoning Board of Appeals or a motion to table the issue. Keep that in mind as we move forward towards that. That concludes my chairman's remarks, and we will now move on to public comment. So it is now 10:42, and just so everyone knows, there's a meeting at 11:30 here for strategic planning. I promised Chairman Covert that we would be out of this room by 11:30. 3 of the members of this committee are also on that committee, so we need to conclude this meeting by 11:30, and I don't see any reason why we can't, given a half hour to the public comment. So Eileen, if you would give me the 5 people who are for the agenda item. Okay, and these are in the order that were submitted to me. We will begin the 15 minutes, and again, those of you who are here at 3 minutes, I don't mean to be offensive, but I'm going to cut you off so we can get moving on this. Randall Johnson from West Suburban Athletic Development Corporation. You are first, sir. Please go ahead. And Eileen, you're going to keep time for us? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Johnson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone, for having us here today. I'm Randall Johnson. I live in Burr Ridge. In my work capacity, I steered the development of the new award-winning Gold LEED certified Rush Orthopedics building on York Road in Oak Brook. Today, I'm here in a different role. I am invested in the Sawmill Garden effort because I'm an active adult and proud parent of a youth soccer player and an active child. I used invested cautiously because a project like this only happens when people from West Suburban Athletic Development are deeply interested in giving the county an asset that will be enjoyed by thousands of families and benefit the DuPage County economy. Still, not one of us is here that is about to quit our day job or retire on Sawmill Garden. I ask that you send Sawmill Garden to the full county board with a unanimous committee recommendation. As you will note today, we have met the concerns of the ZBA and neighbors, and we have done so even where we complied with county law and the concerns were subjective. I don't need to parade hundreds of parents and coaches before you during a pandemic to drill home the point that the county needs Sawmill Garden. Undeniably, the county needs Sawmill Garden. The county itself, through the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau, has determined that youth and other sports facilities are not keeping up with local demand. The county knows that existing facilities are not reasonably capable of efficiently hosting regional tournaments or cooperatively working with others to host national tournaments. It also knows that facilities are tied to one school or one club, and if they attempt to spread the use among others, the schools or club teams suffer. Certainly, Timber Lakes residents will benefit from scheduled open use periods. For those who believe alternative land use is readily available, it is not. We are spending millions to improve Sawmill Creek and improve the condition of the property in relation to Waterfall Glen because land elsewhere has not been available. We pursued the frontage road property after several years of looking. After a difficult search, I can frankly tell you that the land was not available. And even when we were nudged to consider alternatives, the cost of the land was prohibitive. I directed our attorney to work with Mrs. Painter in October 2019 because we offer an environmentally friendly development that will improve conditions for neighbors and Waterfall Glen. Following one early planning meeting with staff and since November of 2019, Mrs. Painter was directly aware of our effort and knew that she could provide input at every stage of planning. She has. We presented a great project to the ZBA. This is a project that saw initial buy-ins from a range of people one might view as your peers, including Mrs. Painter. After spending well over $400,000 to design and pursue a great project that fits the county's plans and zoning ordinances while considering the environment and having no opposition for nearby.
Randy, you have 15 seconds left.
Okay, municipalities, I ask that you recognize that we have gone well beyond the conditions requested by the Timber Lakes Association. Here is what we are going to do in terms of changes. No lights on the field, despite compliance. No restaurant or bar. No alcohol. We will eliminate the pool. We will allow community access to walk the facility in the morning, to have a community room that we will rent for free for all nonprofits. We are here to deliver a community asset that we believe will bring $13 to $14 million annually to DuPage County businesses, businesses that were hit hardest by the pandemic, businesses that need Sawmill Garden, businesses that need this community asset. We ask that you take this into consideration and give your unanimous approval to the full county board so that we can realize our vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Okay, Nick Barchetto, is it? Okay, you're up next. And again, 3 minutes.
Hello,
Please
board.
here if you can, so we can get everybody in. Go ahead.
Hello, board. My name is Nick Barchetto. I will be touching on the engineering and environmental aspect of this project. In terms of the engineering, a preliminary engineering plan was submitted to the Stormwater Department for review, and they concluded that this will meet all the DuPage County stormwater ordinances. The north side of the project that has the parking and the building will be providing underground detention and BMPs, while the south side, we are not increasing any impervious, so we will be just providing BMPs through a filter in the back. Environmentally, this project is, this existing property is in poor shape. There's uncontained releases of fertilizer, manure, and a whole host of agricultural debris that is now releasing into the forest preserve and the surrounding community. The existing creek is also cement lined, which does not allow any filtration of all those contaminants on the existing property to be removed before heading downstream to the neighbors. The proposed development is doing everything possible to clean up what was left over the years from the agricultural use. Over 100 cubic yards to several hundred cubic yards of manure and low quality soil is going to be removed from the site completely and taken to a landfill because of just how much of poor quality. We will also be providing a 100-foot buffer to the south with the critical wetlands so that there will be filtration and BMPs, that all the water on the south portion of the property will be flowing through that area and protecting the critical wetland. That area will be planted with native plants and trees. Landscaping plan has been provided, and this will give great benefit to the forest preserve to the south, not allowing any more of those contaminants in. We've worked with our supplier on also fertilizing the grassed areas. And there are things that the Forest Preserve has agreed with us that we will not be using, just to even give more benefit to the Forest Preserve to the south.
You have 30 seconds left.
Also, a good portion of the creek will be reconstructed with native plantings, and we will be removing the concrete. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Jeff Kepler. Mr. Kepler, please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Kepler with DuPage Architects. I've been involved in the design and project up to this point in time. Mr. Johnson had mentioned a couple of different things that have been revised since the ZBA submission. One of the other items that he did not mention to this point yet was of a more architectural aspect. The dome that we had originally proposed was 79 feet in height. And I believe there was quite a bit of exception about the height of the dome and its relation to views from surrounding areas. In this stage of the process, we are willing to reduce the height of the dome to 65 feet. That's a full 14-foot reduction, which equates to an entire building story here. And again, I just kind of want to bring home the point that we are looking at different color options for the dome itself. So it's not going to be a stark white piece of fabric that's standing out against the sky. It'll be a more neutral color, more grayish color, or greenish color to help blend in with the surrounding environment. One of the other items that was kind of left unresolved in the ZBA application was there's a 20-foot drive aisle on the west of the site. We basically are requesting a 20-foot aisle and a 1.5-foot landscape buffer. We are still continuing to work with Tri-State Fire on the whole fire submission and permitting application for the project. We tried to get them to talk through the drive aisle width and get a firm understanding of what that drive aisle width needs to be from them. We feel that it can be reduced to about 10 feet, which gives us an 11-foot buffer on that left side. However, they're not really willing to go forward with discussions about making concessions on that until they have a full engineered permitted set of drawing packages. We're not quite there yet. So as we have those discussions, we are continuing to finalize that drive aisle width, reduce down and get the landscape buffer on the left-hand side. I guess one other thing I would just make a notion here to put into the record is that we did cite this dome in the parking to the farthest north portion of the building to really kind of keep the relief and the wetland area to the south as pure as possible, and to keep the loading off of the north side and off of frontage road, and really kind of keep the southern half of the whole site as quiet as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joseph Abel. Mr. Abel.
Good evening or good morning. Usually here at night. My name is Joseph Abel. I'm a planning and zoning consultant. Been doing this for over 50 years. I also have the distinction of having been the director of planning for the county for 17 years. My purpose here today is primarily to talk about it from a planning issue. You've heard of all of the environmental advantages, but from my standpoint, from a planning standpoint, the plan development provisions allow greater design flexibility than is normally permitted by the zoning district regulations, thereby encouraging a more rational utilization of a topographic property, especially a property of this type. You've heard in terms of the soils. I've been familiar with this property for some time. It has been used for recreational purposes for quite a long time. It was an equestrian center. with a lot of activities outside and inside. There also, as was mentioned, a soil manure management program that has caused some problems. All of this will be cleaned up. So from a planning standpoint, there's no better way. And I think the years I was here, we actually did design the plan development provision for the ordinance. This particular piece of property fits that procedure. It was like it was designed for it. In addition to that issue, from a planning standpoint, I like to look at what has been planned for a particular area. The county has not been, county has a plan, but it goes back quite some time. The organization that has done the most recent planning for this area is the city of Darien. I personally talked to the planner from Darien, and I think you could, if you have no official objection or anything from Darien, we discussed this. This fits in perfectly with the comprehensive planning that they have done, which is, like I say, the most recent planning in the area. And they feel that putting use of this nature would fit into their planning goals and policies. You have the structure close to the frontage road, which is where the trend of development is definitely against, or not including residential. It's all non-residential as you go from the subject property to the west and then further to the east also. So it fits in with their future planning, which I think is important because eventually this property will be annexed into a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abel. Before we get to Mr. Daniel, who is next, I just wanted to remind everybody, this certainly is for Mr. Daniel, he's well aware of this, but for those members of the committee and those who are here, public comment is not testimony. We're not looking for new testimony here. It's our development committee's responsibility to review evidence that was presented at the Zoning Board of Appeals. Public comment is just that. It's comment, but not testimony. Having said that, Mark Daniel, Mr. Daniel.
Good morning, everyone. Mark Daniel with Daniel Law Office. I've been representing Sawmill Garden at West Suburban Athletic Development since early fall of 2019. I've been dealing with neighbors. I've been dealing with the surrounding municipalities. Joe mentioned Darien. I dealt with Willowbrook. I also dealt with Burr Ridge. No objection to the development. When it comes to the township, there's no objection on the part of the township that hasn't been met by what's been discussed today. As far as the zoning board hearing is concerned, the zoning board addressed a set of plans, and we are here solely within the scope of those plans in practicality, drawing X's through certain things. Bar and restaurant becomes concessions. The light standards on the playing fields, gone. The dome, not at 79 feet, but at 65 feet. Mind you, 65 feet is an easily allowable height in the R2 zoning classification. The R2 zoning classification allows a planned unit development for a recreational use, and indeed the PUD provisions in 1414 specifically say this kind of use should be done so that recreation can be effectively planned. The approach that we took on this with regard to the B1 zoning is no longer necessary in light of the reduced height of the dome. As an R2 plan development and based on the plans presented to the Zoning Board of Appeals, this project can be approved as a plan development. To the extent that Randy mentioned economic benefit, his figure of $13 to $14 million, 13.6, is based on a conservative approach whereby we used a less per person spending figure than the Visitors Bureau uses. We also are relying on a mere 25% of our indoor time for those tournaments. From that figure, we are excluding regular camps where campers will take an entire floor of a hotel, order pizza and food from area restaurants. I'm asking you not to miss this opportunity. I'm asking you to choose the second option, to forward this with additional conditions to the county board with a unanimous recommendation. A vote to remand kills the project. A vote to table kills the project. A vote in opposition to it sends us to the county board to argue the issue there. But you have the full capacity to recognize that amid a pandemic, we've had bifurcated hearings. We've had very difficult times with time limits, presenting a project worth $16 million with tens of millions in economic benefit over the years in 30 minutes. The ZBA did not engage in crafting conditions, even though we proposed conditions, and even though Ms. Painter came in with conditions saying, if this is approved, this is what we can live with. In those conditions, we were addressing hours of operation for the lights, weekdays versus weekends. We've now pulled lights out of it. I think from our perspective, we are confident that this should be approved. I hope that as county board members sitting on the development committee, you recognize the importance of this project. The demand, the need for this project is undeniable. The county has studied this issue as recently as 2019, and it's clear that the county is underserved in this particular area. I want to thank you for your time. I do hope that we will see a vote on this project, favorably recommending it to the county board, subject to conditions that we've touched on that would be acceptable to the applicant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Okay, that is a bit more than 15 minutes for those who are in favor of the project. Anyone else who is here or who has submitted an electronic comment in favor of the project will be added to the minutes and added to the record. At this time, I will now call upon 5 people who are here at the county boardroom who are in opposition to the project. That should take 15 minutes, and then we can move on and call the question. First up is Linda Painter, a Forest Preserve Commissioner and Timberlake Association President. Ms. Painter.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the Development Committee. As some of you may know, I am the Commissioner for the DuPage County Forest Preserve District in which this parcel lies. Beautiful Waterfall Glen Forest Preserve is adjacent to this property along the whole western side of the parcel and over half of the southern edge. Just as a quick review in your packet, beginning on page 99, the Forest Preserve District addresses its concerns, some of which include a septic field too close to Sawmill Creek, garbage dumpster too close to the creek, only 18 inches of side setback, fertilizers, pesticides draining into the creek and land, extremely bright lights disturbing the plants and animals, and noise disturbing the wildlife, and no best management practices adjacent to Sawmill Creek. In conclusion, and I quote, the Forest Preserve District believes that the development plans as currently proposed are incompatible with this natural resource sensitive location, end quote. On page 97 of your packet, the Tri-State Fire Protection District states, after review, we find that the plans are not in compliance with applicable standards relative to fire prevention and life safety due to the following. And there are 10 items listed. On page 106, the Downers Grove Township Highway Department objects due to the narrow road. I'm also president of Timberlake Civic Association. I represent 780 single-family homes in a quiet, unincorporated area in southeast DuPage County. Residents bought homes here because of the tranquil setting. Some homes are adjacent to the parcel, and some will also be affected by bright lights, noise, and traffic as the soccer complex of this magnitude is allowed to be developed. We do not believe the rezoning should be granted. The standards for rezoning have not been met. We do not believe that this project meets 5 out of 7 standards for conditional use. The 5 standards that have not been met are as follows. We believe the project does impair adequate supply of light and air to the adjacent property. It does diminish the value of land and buildings in the vicinity of the proposed conditional use. It does unduly increase traffic congestion in public streets and highways. It does increase the potential for flood damages to adjacent property. And it does otherwise impair the public safety, health, comfort, morals, general welfare of the inhabitants of DuPage County, and it will otherwise create a nuisance. If only one of these standards aren't met, the project with conditional uses should be denied. We believe there are 5 reasons why it should be denied. And my only follow-up on this is if the petitioners are changing the plans, they should have to go back to this magnitude. They should have to go back to the ZBA so that we, the Forest Preserve and the homeowners, can address the changes in writing and make our own public comments after we've had time to think about it and discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Painter. Next up, Dolores Sizey, is it? Did I pronounce that right? If not,
Just size.
Ms. Size, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, I live about 450 feet directly east of the proposed property. Our house is at slightly higher elevation, so we have a direct view of the whole project. All our bedrooms will face that entire property. I feel that we will be, the whole entire block along the east side will be devastated by this project because we won't be able to open our windows for, spring, summer, fall. Our property values will be much lower. Our children use this road, which is a dead end, to ride our bikes. The only way out is to go to frontage road. If we want to go to Waterfall Glen or the park or anything, we have to go out to frontage road. The school bus goes down frontage road, drops the kids off at the end of the block, which is only 450 feet from this project. The increase in traffic will be very dangerous for our children. The amount of bikers and people that use Waterfall Glen during the summer, spring, fall is hundreds of people, and they park right along the frontage road there. This is why I think I am opposed to this, and I think it's a very bad area for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dawn Schramm.
Morning, my name is Dawn Schramm. I live at 17W 350 Shield Drive in Willowbrook. I strongly oppose this development. I sent an email to all of you with my concerns regarding the potential for flooding, the destruction of wetlands and home values, traffic impact, and the safety threat to our community and the animals that live here. I hope you all received it and will take my concerns and objections into consideration. I've heard some people say, what's the big deal? It's just a soccer field. No, it's not. It's 2 acre, 79-foot tall sports dome with 215 space parking lot and 3 brightly lit soccer fields. Margot Baird is my neighbor to the north where this will be going. We all have a neighbor that had a party in their backyard with 20 or so guests that lingered on into the night past midnight, and the noise of the people talking, laughing, and being rowdy has kept you awake. Imagine that your neighbor has 3 soccer fields. Each soccer team has 15 players, a coach, and 2 guests that come to watch. That's 50 people per team times 2 for a soccer game. That's 100 plus people per game times 3 games going on at once. And now you have 300 plus people in your neighbor's yard screaming, yelling, being rowdy, and at least 3 of them are blowing whistles constantly. This goes on all day, every day from 8 a.m. until midnight, from March until November. Imagine coming home from a long day at work wanting to relax and there's soccer games going on in your neighbor's yard. Imagine looking forward to a quiet weekend, maybe have some friends over and there are soccer games with 300 plus people in your neighbor's yard all day long. The petitioner believes that a 100-foot buffer of trees will be enough to abate this noise, but a study by the Virginia DOT on the effectiveness of a 98-foot wide barrier of trees to reduce noise along highways concluded that it did little to, if nothing, to reduce noise. And that's just noise. Each game lasts an hour, so those 300 plus people leave and another 300 plus people arrive. This gets repeated over a 14-hour day, which means there's a potential of around 10 turnovers of 300 plus different people coming and going, watching soccer games, eating at the restaurant, drinking at the bar, which has outdoor rooftop seating that overlooks the soccer fields and faces my home. I will have thousands of strangers every day looking into my backyard, onto my patio, and into the windows and doors of my home. Would you feel safe and comfortable in your home knowing that they can see everything in your yard and home and everything that you are doing at your home? My privacy, safety, and comfort will be stripped away, and I will never be able to enjoy my backyard again. It's not just a soccer field going in, and to me it is a very big deal. Although this development looks great on paper, it does not belong on this piece of land. I purchased my home for the beautiful, peaceful existence of the surrounding forest preserve. The only thing I see in here now are the animals that grace me with their presence. I ask you to please reject this petition and deny the rezoning of this property and all conditional use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it Herb Schramm?
I live with my wife directly behind this proposed project. Our property is 70 feet away. We'll be looking at a dome, 8 stories high and 2 acres in size. In 1990, the county did a comprehensive land use plan, which included the resolution CD-PL-02-90. Within that resolution, it states the following. Chapter 1, existing residential neighborhoods will be protected from redevelopment by discouraging rezoning to a higher intensity use. This will definitely be a higher intensity use. Chapter 3 states floodplains, wetlands, and other environmentally sensitive areas will be protected from development. This land was in wetlands years ago. Somehow it got removed from the wetlands inventory. I've tried to find out. I've had no success with stormwater finding out why. I think that needs to be looked into. Chapter 4, it says to the extent feasible, land plan for residential development will be preserved for housing development. In conclusion, it says, the unincorporated DuPage County Land Use Plan stands as a policy of the DuPage County Board towards intended land use of the unincorporated area. This document will be used as a guideline by county officials reviewing land use decisions. I believe this resolution was written up to protect the citizens living in residential zoning unincorporated DuPage County, precisely from this type of development going in. At the time it was written, 21 board members voted aye to approve. 4 were absent. So 100% of the boards in attendance approved this resolution. And it was signed by Mr. Jack Knopfler. This brings up the question of spot zoning. It seems to me this is the classic definition of spot zoning is the processing of a singling out a parcel of land for classification totally different from the surrounding area for the benefit of the owners of such property and to the detriment of other owners. Spot zoning is in fact often thought of as a very antithesis of land zoning. When considering spot zoning, courts will generally determine whether the zoning related to the compatibility of the zoning of surrounding uses. Other factors may include the characteristics of the land, the size of the parcel, and the degree of the public benefit. Perhaps the most important criterion in determining spot zoning is the extent to which the disputed zoning is inconsistent with municipality's comprehensive plan. This project is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan from 1990. And as far as the benefits to the community, we were told that this is a private club, and it's not like they won't be taking walk-in people. I won't be able to take my grandkids there on a Wednesday after school to go kick a soccer ball around. I won't be able to go take a dip in the pool. This is more of my understanding, a training facility for professional and semi-professional athletes, and a place where by invite only and by scheduled events only, that teams will come and participate and use the facilities. But the general public's not just going to walk up, go inside and lift weights and go for a swim. So I would request that you deny this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Adam Size.
Chairman, member of the committee. My name is Adam Size. I've submitted letters against this project and also photographs against this project to all of you. Hopefully you've taken a look at them and take them into consideration when you're making your decision. A few of the things I would like to talk about and bring up in addition to that are, one of them, how it's going to affect my property value. I live at 9 South 755 Western, approximately 450 feet east of the project. My house sits at an elevation of about 700 feet. The proposed soccer fields are at an elevation of about 670 feet, so we look down on that. There's absolutely nothing between my house and the area where the fields and all are going to go in. We've been able to watch in the summertime as the rains come through and the backyard floods over there. One of the things they talked about was eliminating some of the land that's in the back over there and taking it back down to an elevation that it was before all the manure and everything that was spread over it was done. I don't see how that's going to do nothing but cause flooding in the area. One of the things they talk about is the retention that they're going to have for the creeks when the heavy rains come in and how they're going to control them. As we all know, Chicago tried to do that with the Deep Tunnel project. And to date, as far as I know, they haven't had any success. At least every year they're dumping sewage and all into Lake Michigan. If Chicago can't do that, I don't understand how these guys are going to be able to do that. One last comment I want to make about it, in addition to decreasing my property value, the petitioner talks about that they looked extensively for other areas where they could put this facility up. Well, I don't think they've looked that hard, because if they went down Lamont Road between 87th Street or between Plainfield, they would find that there's 2 acres of land right now available. One's 17 and one's a 14-acre land. In that area right now, they currently have a volleyball club, a baseball practice facility, and they just put in Midwest Badminton. That area over there does not affect any creeks, would not cause them to have any water retention. They already have the infrastructure in there, and I think that would be a much more suitable place for a project like this. Again, thank you for your time, and I hope you take my stuff into consideration.
Thank you very much. That concludes the public comment portion of today's meeting, and I want to thank all of those who are here and who adhered to the 3-minute rule. I think we got that in within 30 minutes. I know there are people not only here in the county boardroom, 10 or 12, but there are additional people in the adjoining conference rooms, as well as people who have submitted electronic comments, both for and against. All of those names will be entered into the minutes, whether you are for or against that. Again, public comment is not testimony, it's not evidence, it's just comment, but we do sincerely appreciate you being here. Moving on to the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Development Committee's minutes from January 5th, 2021.
So moved. Covert.
Second, Garcia.
Motion by member Covert, a second by member Rutledge. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, please.
Member Krajewski,
Aye.
member Covert,
Aye.
member Garcia,
Aye.
member Ozog,
Aye.
member Rutledge,
Aye.
Chair Tornatori.
Aye, and the minutes are approved. Moving on to item 6A, we'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 0011-21 ordinance Z2059 West Suburban Athletic Development Corporation. And bear with me, I will read the entire ordinance. The ZBA's recommendation to deny following zoning relief: a rezoning from R2 to B2 to planned unit development with exceptions, conditional uses within the planned development for a recreational center and restaurant and is needed. Yard reductions. Exceptions include A, to allow a decorative fence and wall taller than 4 feet in the front yard, to allow for the sign depicted in the plan. B, to allow the landscape screen depicted in the landscape plan. C, to permit a front yard of 20 feet and an east interior yard of 5 feet. D, to allow the use of the west interior side yard for access and maintenance to within 1 1/2 feet of the west lot line. E, to allow signage along the frontage that is 15 feet tall and situated 10 feet from the lot line, and signage not to exceed 25,000 square feet at the translucent center at the top of the inflatable structure as shown in the plans. F, to allow the frontage signage to have an area not to exceed 240 square feet in the design shown in the plans. G, to permit up to 2 banner signs along the frontage and up to 8 banner signs on the interior continuously during the period between March 15th and November 15th. H, to permit the project with 215 parking spaces, 7 accessible, up to 6 of which may be used for the parking of trucks, not to exceed the length of 2 stalls during tournaments or special events only. I, to avoid wheel guards and curbs in the central parking bay. J, to permit the parking with planting shown in the landscape plan. K, to allow the planned development without off-street loading, provided that the waste enclosure and airlocks in existence at the time are maintained. Downers Grove District 3. This is generally located southeast of I-55 and Cass Avenue on Frontage Road. The Zoning Board of Appeals voted to deny this 5-1. There is that is the ordinance. I'll entertain at this point a motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
So moved.
Who was that?
So moved, Ozog.
By member Ozog. Is there a second?
Second Garcia.
Some second by member Garcia. For purposes of this matter, as I indicated earlier, what we have the opportunity to do, because this was a denial at the Zoning Board of Appeals, it's the opinion of the state's attorney and myself that this would require passage by a supermajority at the county board. Given that, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, questions by any members of the development committee, or anything they wish to add? I see member Covert's hand. Member Covert first.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So a yes vote would be to deny the development, and a no vote would be to approve the development. Is that correct? Just for the public to understand?
I was distracted.
The opposite.
Can you
Yeah,
say
okay.
time, please? Go ahead. Would you,
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
would you repeat the question, please?
Oh, sure. I just wanted to clarify for everybody. This is a recommendation to either approve, to vote on the recommendation by the ZBA. So would that be a yes vote to deny the development and a no vote would to approve the development? Are we going to be doing it backwards, or just for clarification for everyone?
No, this is the motion is a motion to approve the ordinance. So
Okay.
if there is a yes vote, it would be a recommendation to the county board, which is what our committee does, is make recommendations to approve the ordinance as set forth. That would be at the yes vote. A no vote would be to not recommend it, or a recommendation to deny, if you will, to the county board. Member Ozak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion right now to send this back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. What I'm hearing this morning is really significant changes from the original project and its impact. I mean, I'm looking at, they've eliminated a pool, they've eliminated this, or they've reduced the size of the dome. There's no longer a restaurant or bar. They will allow people to walk on the site. So they've opened up the site to various neighborhood uses. And they've eliminated lights. And as far as I'm concerned, this has really turned into a different project. And it's really not up to us to decide the impact of the changes that they've made. I think it should go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals and then come back to us. And then we can discuss neighbor input and impact of the project as they've now reformulated it.
I second that.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Member Ozak. I heard a second. Who was that?
Member Covert.
Covert.
Okay, there's a motion to refer back to the Zoning Board of Appeals, seconded by Member Covert. It's my understanding, and I've been informed by the state's attorney, that that motion would supersede the motion to approve the ordinance as is set forth. But I do want to recognize Vice Chair Garcia before we take that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to agree with Member Ozog on that. I mean, this project has really changed dramatically. I mean, I'm writing notes down as they're talking about it, and it's not the same project at all. And I don't know if the residents are aware of all the changes, or if they were. I think it needs to be clarified to them, and so then we can come back and vote on exactly what's being presented. So I am in agreement with both Member Ozog and Member Covert.
Oh, thank you very much. Member Krajewski, we'll go to you next before we double back.
Yeah, just earlier in the public comment, did I hear one of the comments from, and I believe maybe it was the petitioner's attorney, saying that if this went back to the ZBA, that this would be dead, project would be dead? And I don't know if we could clarify that comment. Was that said during public comment?
I believe it was said. You did hear that correctly.
That if this goes back to ZBA, that the project's dead?
That's what the attorney did say, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
That's, okay, Member Rosa, we'll go back to you.
Okay, first of all, I don't really understand why a project that's being resubmitted to the ZBA would be dead, because there would be a hearing about it and it would come back to us, from my understanding. But my other issue is, if I heard this correctly from the developers, they're now saying with the reduction in the size of the dome and the other issues that they've removed from the or the other parts of the project they've removed, they indicated that it would now be approved under R2 versus B1. And the main issue that we're here to discuss today is going from an R2 to a B1, which is a significant change in a residential area. So I think they need to go back to the drawing board. Is it an R2? And it may very well be with the reduction of the dome and the other usages. I've eliminated lights. They've eliminated virtually everything I can think of that they'd need a variance for. Bar and restaurants usage. Really, I think it's come down to parking and flooding, and of course, neighborhood impact with traffic, et cetera. I think it's a different project. And I think that if we vote to send it back to the Zoning Board of Appeals, it now is on the onus of the developer to send back to present to the Zoning Board of Appeals what exactly this plan is going to be, which is also, pardon me, the only fair thing to do for the neighborhood, that they see the project in its new reiteration. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozak. Normally, I would not get back and forth with a give and take, but I see Mr. Daniel, who's standing at the podium. So, Mr. Daniel, you have something to say about this?
I could. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the comment about it going back to the ZBA, I want to be perfectly clear. We have a contract that allows us less than 24 hours from January 26th to move forward with the transaction. 1 week from today is the anticipated county board action. From our perspective, please note that we have been in this process. We were ready to file in late June. The county reopened. We were ready to go. We opened September 24th. We faced a 4 or 5 week delay to allow the association to have an HOA meeting. We then faced a long delay before the recommendation and another long delay during the turnover of the board. The timing of this, if it goes back to the ZBA, takes it beyond the county's ability to encourage the proper development, but beyond our ability to present it. We have to rely on the owner, who is in a tough, very tough financial spot, to stay in contract with us. And we will be out of contract as of that date. I will note, and I did not mention this during the earlier part, a supermajority vote. That question on legal grounds and based on statute is contested. To approve an R2 plan development whereby the county by ordinance tells folks where the building will be placed on the property for the benefit of the neighbors is not a variation and does not require supermajority vote. The text of the map amendment is off the table. The only reason it was there was because we were at 79 feet and we knew that with regard to Mecca on 91st Street, the county had a prior history with adjusting height in that territory, even though we're up against 55 in the tall hotel across the highway. So I would ask, please today, consider reviewing the conditions that are in your packet. There have been conditions submitted to the ZBA every step of the way. They have always known that this could be approved as an R2 PUD. There is nothing that will change on the site plan at the ZBA. We're just dealing with the imposition of conditions that are reflective of what can be accepted and what can be a proper adjustment after this matter has already gone to the ZBA and the neighbors have had their say and we have heard them. That is the purpose of the hearing. So I encourage you to please take a vote to recommend today.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Okay, there's a couple of comments Okay, I'm going to have Member Chaplin, because you were former vice chair, I'm going to give you a chance, but we've literally got 5 minutes before, and I've got something that might be an alternative suggestion, but go ahead, Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. And I'm no longer on the committee, but I just wanted to mention that I believe in development, it's not uncommon for us to put conditions on projects going forward. I mean, that's a commonplace. We do this all the time in development committee, if I'm correct.
You are correct. That was
Thank you.
the options that I pointed out when we began the meeting.
I just wanted to reiterate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, Member Covert.
I just had thank you, Chairman. I just had a quick question. Is there a possibility of any extensions on that contract that was stated, that was shared right now? Because I don't want to be unfair to the developer.
For Mr. Daniel, I think yes or no is all.
No.
All right, the answer was no. Member Ozog, and then I'm going to wrap it up for a vote one way or the other.
Okay, 2 quick points. First of all, financial arrangements between the developer and his finance is really out of the realm of what we're discussing today. That's not our purview. And the other issue I have is that I'm really not going to be able to vote on a proposal that is not in front of me. It has had at least 5 or 6 major usage changes, and it's not the same thing that we're voting on here. Even if we put conditions on it, those conditions are not before us. They've been talked about today. We were not formally notified of them. It's not the same thing. I think it needs to be rescinded back. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, a couple of things, if I might. First, whether or not the matter is dead or not is obviously a position that the developer has taken and has in its contractual relationship with the owner, and as Member Ozaga said, is somewhat beyond our purview. Regarding the supermajority, Mr. Daniel did suggest it's been contested. I don't believe that that's been a legal judicial contest, but it's being contested as whether or not Mr. Daniel believes that a supermajority would be required. Also, it's my understanding from conversations with Paul Haas that Mr. Daniel, the attorney for the petitioner, may have some objections regarding whether or not this committee has the authority to send any matter back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. But he does acknowledge, my understanding is that the county board does have the authority to send these matters back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Having said all of that, and the significant changes that have been brought about and the inability of the property owners to know what these changes are until today, I would ask if there is an appetite from the development committee to vote on this matter as it's set forth in the agenda, up or down, with a referral, up or down, which is just a recommendation to the full county board next week. At that time, the county board may, if it desires, send it back to the ZBA, which would eliminate the potential issue that Mr. Daniel may have about our ability to do it. It would also still keep in line the time frame that Mr. Daniel had indicated, and it would give Mr. Daniel and his client and the people in the community 1 week to talk about what the changes are that have been proposed today, and if those changes may or may not be acceptable, and if they're still willing to make those changes can be made as conditions by the county board next week, just as they would be made today. So my suggestion, again, if there's an appetite to avoid any possible concerns regarding our ability to send this back to the ZBA, would be to refer this to the full county board so that we can take it up on that day, and we could either vote it up or down as it stands, vote it up or down with any conditions and or changes after giving the parties a week to sit down and put their heads together, or refer it back to the ZBA by the county board, which everyone acknowledges the county board has a right to do. Does everyone understand what I have just said? And is there an appetite to do that. And if we do, the vehicle to do that would be to go back to the original motion that was made by, I don't recall who made the motion to approve this matter, but the original motion to approve and second the ordinance is set forth. We can make a recommendation up or down. Quite frankly, if the recommendation is to approve or not approve, it's still going to go to the county board, and we'll take it up at the county board either way.
I'm on board, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine with me also.
All right, so there's a consensus among the members that we could do that. Okay, so Eileen, would you tell me who made the motion to approve the ordinance as set forth? Member Ozak's motion, and who seconded that? Okay, and seconded by Member Garcia. Having said that, with the understanding that this is going to get referred to the county board for further discussion, and with a variety of ways to go, there is a motion and a second, and I'll call on Member Krajewski for the one last point.
And just saying, don't we have to have Member Ozog withdraw her, her motion to refer it back to ZBA?
I was going to get to that. Once the mayor, always the mayor. Going to jump right in here and tell me what to do. That's good. Okay. Thank you very much. Member Ozag, do you withdraw your motion?
I do withdraw my motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Seconder, I presume, withdraws her second as well. Okay, we are back to the original motion and a second on the DCO 11-21 or Z 2059. A vote aye is in favor of it. A vote nay would be a recommendation to deny it. In either event, it's going to go to the county board next week. Eileen, please call the roll.
Member Krajewski,
Well, I was hoping we have just a minute of a discussion on this, but I'll
give you a minute of discussion if you want. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, I'm voting no as it moves forward to the county board, understanding that there may be a number of conditions because I don't think it meets, all 7 of the criteria. But I know there'll be potentially conditions added at the county board, subject to that. I don't know when I get to the county board, but I'm voting no on this now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. Was that a no?
Yes, that was a no.
It was a no.
Member Covert,
No.
Member Garcia,
No.
Member Ozog,
No.
Member Rutledge, Chair Tornatori.
And I'm going to vote yes, just to be different, and it's going to go to the county board in any event. So it is 5 noes, 1 aye. The matter will be referred to the county board as set forth. Moving on to old business. Do we have any old business? Do we have any new business? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Krajewski.
Motion by Member Rutledge, seconded by Member Krajewski. A roll call, please.
Member Krajewski,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Garcia,
Aye.
Member Ozog,
Aye.
Member Rutledge, Chair Tornatori.
Aye, and we are adjourned. Sadi, I'm sorry, I'm 2 minutes late. It's 11.
It's okay.
And then
Thank you all.
have a good week, everyone.